Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode of Juice Pro Wrestling. This is a bonus episode. This is the lost Sid Vicious interview. In the history of recording Juice Pro Wrestling and the JP Dub, we've never lost any audio. But this was the one piece of audio that I refused to use because the quality was so bad. We had phone line issues, and the audio coming from Sid's side would come in and out. Clear to terrible, and I felt that it was unusable. I took a second look a couple of months ago, and I've taken the last couple of months to try to clean it up as best I can. I cut about half of what we recorded. What you're about to listen to is about half of what we actually had, and I left in some of the bad audio, some of the really bad audio, I should say, because it gives sort of a tonal context to what they were talking about. I didn't want to just cut it and make it abrupt. Even with the audio issues, I wanted it to be as smooth and as seamless as I possibly could. So I think it's a cool interview. I think you get the idea that Sid was very cool, and he was very gracious this time. He was very insightful about the current state of wrestling, which was right before All Out, right in AEW's infancy. So Sid gave advice on what AEW should do as a company, which was very cool. It's a really cool interview. I'm super happy that we're able to actually share it with you guys. This is probably going to be for the diehards because of the audio quality. The content is really cool. Wallace interviewed a legend. It's super cool. Also, when I say Sid was being very cool, he was actually goofing on us a little bit, and I had to cut most of it because of the audio quality, but towards the end of the episode, you hear a little bit of that. He was very playful. He was super cool. I don't know how many people Wallace told this to, but Sid was so cool, and he made such a nice, quick connection with Wallace that once we ended the interview, I had to leave and come back to the studio. Wallace stayed, Sid called him back, and they talked for like 5 more hours, just two buddies talking over a beer over the phone. It was really nice. I'm sure Wallace enjoyed it. I'm sure you'll enjoy this episode too. Happy New Year's once again to everybody. Best wishes for the new year. We wish you and your family and friends and everyone you care about nothing but health and happiness, and hopefully we'll see some of you in the next year. Take care. Enjoy the show.
You so freaking bad. Wrestle me.
Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling. With me and Sreten today on this very special episode is the master and ruler of the world, the one, the only, the ultimate legend when it comes to big men, Sid Vicious. What's going on, Sid?
Man, it's the first real weekend of college football, and that's one of my favorite times of the year.
Oh, yeah.
And ESPN did especially yesterday, so the first 150 years of college football, man, was it cool. And to me, it's 100 times better than the NFL.
Well, you're down in, I can't disagree with that, although I am a huge Bears fan.
No.
You're down in Arkansas. What? That's the Razorbacks, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm an SEC fan. SEC is dominated football, college football forever, just about.
Hell yeah.
Or it has in the last 20 years or so. But in Alabama has done most of the killing. But no, it's just, again, in college football, if you lose a game, you're pretty much out of the national championship for the year.
Yeah.
So every game is a national championship for these guys.
Oh yeah.
And it's not for just one team; it's for a bunch of teams that there's a 4-8 team playoff right now. Used to, you really came down to 2 teams. Coaching poll and the voters poll would pick the top 2 teams pretty much, and that's who would play for the national championship.
Right.
You didn't make it if you lost the game. You can get in there with one loss now, where you couldn't before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, they don't take any days off, and that's fun.
I always think it's funny when I listen to the sports radio. Inevitably, like around week 10, you get a couple teams that are like 9-1, and the analysts are all talking about like, oh, we've had they've had such a disappointing season, and I was like, 9-1,
yeah,
disappointing season. It's like calm down, but it's that intense.
9-9 is a good record.
Yeah. Yeah.
The time the Giants won the Super Bowl, I think they were right above, just one game above 500.
Yeah, they barely got through and won the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Won the whole thing. And then I guess, pro football has been always about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And as time's gone on, it really has. When we watch it, and I guess they say that the ratings are showing that. It's been sort of the wild card game for baseball sort of helped baseball with it. And this is what they're thinking: get rid of preseason football games and just add more playoff games. That's the only time anyone's watching right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, preseason, it's whatever. It's kind of meaningless to an extent, I think. Guys.
Right.
That's why they don't play the stars, because they get hurt or something. And
well, with the last couple of weeks, people have gotten hurt. Won't even probably start the season. It's stupid to have a game that doesn't count. This game about college football, the very first game counts. You know.
Who's your favorite NFL team, Sid?
Man, to be honest with you, it's Dallas Cowboys. Like right now, it's easy to say this is that I'm a Patriots fan because I like their system.
Yeah.
They
breed champions.
I mean, I like people to. Well, I like people to work hard and you get everything figured out and you're working the hardest like they are. Man, you should win all the time. As far as Indiana, I was always a Hoosier fan in college basketball.
Yes. I was a big, what's his name, though? God, how is that slipping my mind now? I'm having a Budweiser brain fart.
Bob Knight.
Yeah, Bobby Knight, man. I was a huge fan of his, dude. His methods may, in this day and age, may not be apropos or, but whatever.
Well, this is the thing is, guys, you watch this thing on ESPN about college basketball, college football. It also explains what's going on in, college basketball as well. Is that you couldn't have people like back in the day before me, Ohio State, Woody Hayes, where he finally got, fired when he punched the guy in the throat. And you look at, I saw the video last night. He really didn't punch him in the throat. Mm-hmm. Like when they said Bob Knight did that to that guy, ESPN just did a big special on that. When the kid that said what happened to him, when they showed it on tape, it didn't really happen. There weren't people breaking it up. It wasn't as physical as it sounded. Bobby did not get grabbed him by the throat a little bit, but this is the thing is, and I can't condone that.
Yeah.
In wrestling, guys, it was just like that with some of our promoters, or our bookers. And that was Ole Anderson. He was like that. And it got under people's skin. To me, it didn't bother me. I didn't really.
Well, because you could fuck Ole up probably, dude.
I'll give you an example. Cactus Jack, Mick Foley.
Yeah.
And he said in his book, I was walking out to the car that night, and he quit because Ole had said a couple of negative things to him. But I didn't hear them all, so I can't make a total judgment. But I never told him, man, don't let this guy get to you. I said, this guy will be gone a few months. And he was. Mm-hmm. Bookers didn't last that long. If you could just keep your head about you keep your job,
Yeah.
And I think he would have done better staying with that company. Outlasting Ole Anderson and just shrugged the stuff off, because Ole said it to everyone. I don't know what he said to Mick. Again, you just don't take it that serious,
Yeah. Well, some guys they do take it that serious, I guess, and they're that sensitive. Who knows?
The thing is, guys, I will go to. I can tell you things that happened to me that I didn't even know that happened to me and didn't care. I'll give you one for example. When I did the Psycho Sid character the first time, I didn't know what they even called me. I didn't know what the music was. I didn't know what the lighting was. When I got back to the ring, everybody in the locker room, man, do you know what just happened? I did. I didn't know what happened. They're calling me Psycho Sid, and it was sort of, I guess, it was tying that deal with Arn Anderson, which I hate.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know that. You know what I mean? So after I got out to bring it back, because again, I said, damn, I didn't realize it, but I didn't care either.
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't take it serious. I weighed that out, and I took that beating like Jack should have took that beating, and within a year or so, I was on top again, guys. And that I was what's called the whipping post at that point. Where I'd left Vince, I had to come back to him. He asked me back, but I had to go through that period, where I had to get myself off the whipping post, and when I become the world champion.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, and getting back to your first run with Vince, I mean, I was there, so we got a little bit of history there for that. I was there for Mania 8. I remember you, and I was watching WCW beforehand, so you were like one of my favorites. Like, dude, this big-ass intimidating dude, like, just looks like he would maul through anybody. I mean, you had the look, man, especially something that Vince was looking for. You're what, like 6'9" or something like that?
Yeah.
300 pounds?
The thing is, I had to look at I'm telling you guys, that first run, that night there, the example, I didn't know that they had the Warrior come back. And I'm not going to go into it, but I gave my notice at Royal Rumble after the deal when they booed Hogan, and he blamed Vince Ford after the match, screaming at him down the hall. And I said, man, I actually was Vince, gave my notice and asked you for a handshake and told him I appreciated everything he'd done for me. But I just, I told him I wasn't ready for that place. So I thought if you just worked hard, you showed up and worked harder than everybody else, I saw they would ask of you. Yeah. And, that was just too much. And we've been through so much from the beginning of that whole idea of what it was going to go and where it didn't go because so many changes. And so, again, when they did that at WrestleMania, I had no idea that they were going to do all that stuff.
Yeah, and that was, that Mania, too, it's in a lot of people's minds, it's not one that's really talked about a lot. But if you look at it, that was really Hogan's last Mania.
Well, yeah, guys, this is the whole deal. I was brought in to take his place.
Right.
That's why people were doing it.
But let me ask you this, because this is what irritated me as a fan. Because your WCW run to me, like I said, was before you first went to Vince the first time. I was just like, man, I was so impressed and intimidated, and like this is like a huge. You were a great heel, man, and then you're Sid Vicious, and I love that. Then you go to WWF, and it's like Sid Justice, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. I remember I went back and just watched some stuff today when I was at work, kind of reminiscing, gearing up for tonight. And I remember, I think you were still, it was the Sid Justice run still, or well, yeah, because you came out on the barbershop with Brutus Beefcake. It's like, I'm going to rearrange your face. I was like, and everybody knew at that time, Beefcake had that face injury. So that was a good, work shoot deal. And you had on, I think it was a maroonish color or something like that.
Probably so. I can't remember. This is the thing. Now, why was this is more popular is because Eddie Gilbert and Ole Anderson held my hand and put me in the right positions and gave me the things to get over. All right, so from the beginning, I went to WCW, put me with a heck of a guy named Danny Spivey taught me the business from the very beginning. So I was well groomed as to be a heel and be a singles worker. And they said, at one time that I might not even have to be a champion to be one of the biggest money drawers because I wouldn't really need a belt.
Right.
And that's just why I didn't get the belt as many times as other people did, because I didn't need one. But that's why I think Sid Vicious was more popular. The second, it was just bad time. The business was going down. The Sid Justice, and the time I got back to Sid Psycho Sid, the business was on its ass. And that's why I'm so proud of myself. By keeping down on the grindstone and not looking up and just working forward, I was able to come back. And I think that was a big reason for that, because I was doing any addition when I came back from my injury when things got good. And then they made me, I really worked myself in to be the world champion.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be Vader's fight. I worked myself to that, guys, and that was probably the most satisfying moment of my life. I wasn't making a quarter of the money I made in the business, but I was doing something on my own.
Sid, did you get to keep the belt when you won the Winged Eagle belt?
No.
No? Damn. See,
to be honest with you guys, I didn't care if the WCW belt would be at all. The WWF, I didn't want to carry it either because it was too cumbersome,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want that belt. Now, I do believe the time I was winning from Sean, at least to me, it did help me draw money as a heel and as a babyface because I was the first to do that.
What's your opinion of your guys' match? Like you and Sean in the ring when you took the strap from him. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, this is the thing is it made that match so good with Sean.
Yeah.
A lot of it was that, Sean's a very giving person in the wrestling business in the ring. And he let me get over in that match. He didn't take, the booze seriously like a lot of baby faces do.
Yeah.
Sean made that match really comfortable for me. And, again, didn't try to take the lights from me or anything. Just, again, he kept his nose down too and kept working hard.
Hell yeah. You still talk to Sean?
No, I haven't, man. To be honest, I haven't talked to anybody. I talked to Harvey Whippleman some, and I talked to Carl Willett up in Montreal a little bit.
Oh, yeah, PCO.
One of the other signings we talked to other guys. But I did notice this. Now, the last couple of times I went to our autograph signing, I really made a point making some connections with people, you know, just to talk to them. And I don't know, I'm seeing things a little different.
I mean, you were a huge part of that. You were as much as any of those other guys were. I mean, when you think of, in my opinion, at least, you think of 90s wrestling, it's like, if I'm going to give a list of top 10 guys, you know, you're easily on that list.
Funny thing, Wallace knows a ton about music, and I listen to music, but I don't know a ton of in-depth stuff. So I was a fan of yours, and I knew the name Sid Vicious as you being Sid Vicious before I knew Sid Vicious from the Sex Pistols. So when I became an adult, like when I was older, I watched an independent movie with I can't remember the two actors, but and then I found out about Sid Vicious, and I looked him up, and just his whole I just was not a fan of his lifestyle and him being a heroin addict and all this other stuff. And
I'll be honest with you, there's only really one or two songs, and not from the Sex Pistols. It's from Neil Young, and he actually sings about the guy in the band called Johnny Rotten.
Yeah,
and it's called Into the. I think there's two songs on the same album called Out of the Blue and Into the Black. There's two different versions of it, and it's about the King's Gum and Johnny Rotten. You know, so to me, that's the only song connected to them that I can ever listen to, and it's because Neil Young plays it. But I'm not into that music. I couldn't tell you one song they sing.
Well, I was the reverse. Sorry, my point was I got mad at the guy from the Sex Pistols because I thought that he took your name and was using it to run with some sort of punk gimmick. Yeah. And I was like, what's he doing? He's making the name look bad. Right. I was like the opposite of, most other people. So yeah, back then I was team Sid Vicious, the wrestler.
Hell yeah. Sid, what's some of your favorite music, man?
Well, man, I've got a bunch of them. Of course, the whole, I've just started taking albums again. The albums have gotten cool again. I've had a pretty cool sound system I've had I've collected over the last 40 years. Led Zeppelin was always cool, and I'll tell you who's cool right now is Robert Plant, man.
Yeah,
he's got two new bands one's called the Spaceshippers, one's called Band of Joy, which one's a country band and one is more of they taken some country songs like Ralph Stanley, an old blues band that made it Led Zeppelin. They've taken some Led Zeppelin songs, but there's other band and made it into like country music with a real edge to it.
Yeah.
What music right now, guys, is to me is retro, and retro to some people is the past. To me, it's past, present, and future. That's what retro I think really means. Is taking something from the past. Like the other day, I was riding and I was listening to some Robert Plant, and here it was. I was listening to Annie Mae, a Ralph Stanley song that he redone and made it into rock out of it, and then taking the Led Zeppelin song and making country out of it in the same day. And to me, that's retro. Taking two different types of songs, going different directions. And that's, to me, what is cool. There's not one particular band. I mean, I think there's so much. I think the music, the sound of music is best it's ever been. I'm really lucky. Memphis is a station called The Weevil, and it's been the best station in Memphis for 47 years. And no one knows about it because it's a small little station, and it's just playing songs, and they make up their own stuff. Like, because you don't listen to one genre of music, you listen to a different genre of music every 2 to 3 hours. You might not agree with that type of song, reggae or whatever it is, but if you listen to that reggae segment, I'll guarantee you, even if you don't like that music, you're going to hear some songs. You're going to go, I don't know who that was. That was the best song I ever heard.
Hell yeah. Dude, I remember Austin City Limits has been around for a while. I think, didn't they do, I could have swore it was the same show. I saw like a Stevie Ray Vaughan show on back in the day.
Yeah, well, of course, they done Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
Again, they're going to have the best of the best. And I think they've only done two now, I think recorded. Also, see the Hall of Fame shows, and man, were they good. I mean, it's just, again, if you make an Austin City Limits band, that's like the pinnacle of the music business,
Yeah, for sure, man.
It's like you say back in the day being on Johnny Carson or Ed Sullivan. Yep. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
If you made it there, and everybody comes in that show is so appreciative, too. That's what they all say, man, I want to thank God for Austin City Limits,
For sure. Sid, let me ask you a question about this now. This is going back to WCW. No, it's a shoot. Going back to WCW, a flair for the gold. I'm sure you've been asked this, but what were your thoughts on the fucking Shockmaster?
I was there, guys. I called that day before it happened. We were going through rehearsals, and they showed, they had the wall scene, and they had the construction people, gimmicking the wall to, where Fred could come and knock it over. Mm-hmm. And but there was a 2x4 in the floor, and I guess it's called a stud. And so I told him, I said, man, don't you think you not have those construction people nudge that out? And then that way because he don't have the helmet on, he said he won't be able to see what he's doing. And he said, no, it'll be okay. So if they didn't hear the audio, when me and Harlem Heat walk out that night, as that happens, you hear me in the background going, see, I fucking told you that. And because I called that.
Yeah. It's funny because you can kind of see it. Like, you can kind of see, like, man, he's trying not to fucking laugh or say something, like, I had to ask you because it's so ridiculous. And then to boot the whole, like, man, come on. We all know what wrestling is, like, even back then, but this dude's coming out and he's got the Stormtrooper helmet on. That's like it's all glittered up. Like, I'm the Shockmaster. Like, oh, man.
Well, now, you know who was doing the voiceover for that?
No, who was that?
Ole Anderson.
Are you serious? I never knew that.
Supposedly it was Dusty's idea.
It sounds,
that
sounds
this is what happened,
right.
In booking period, and I've said this before, and I probably said the wrong things, that I said back in those days, guys did that a lot. They did have no idea what was going to be done with that gimmick or anything like that. They just thought of the moment.
Yeah.
And they didn't think of anything afterwards. I mean, what if this doesn't work? Or what if he falls? Or we got the right person in place for this. And now, again, when you hear things like this happen, another story that comes up like this is called The Oz.
Oh,
the character that Kevin Nash did. And the person who was in common with that was Dusty Rhodes, because that was both of his idea. Mm-hmm. So, and this is what happens, when you're a booker, you tried it all and maybe running out of ideas and you're thinking of something, you're going to miss on a few,
Yeah. Those were
but that definitely was a miss. And I called it.
Yeah. I love how you called it. Like, he's going to fall. I love that too. Back in the day, like when you were paired up with Harlem Heat, dude, I thought they were a great tag team back in the day with Sister Sherry, man, Sherry Martel.
Right.
What were your thoughts on working with Sherry?
Now, the thing about it was she was awesome to work with.
Yeah.
There was very few women that did have the respect of the guys in the locker room, and that was hard to do back in those days. She worked so hard, you had to respect her, and it was awesome to be back there with her.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty much, as far as what I understand, anybody that was put with Sherry, it was like you were getting the rub from Sherry, like.
No, well, this is the thing is, you could definitely say Harlem Heat was getting, I don't like the word rub, but it could be used right there. But now what that was, you got somebody who's real successful and she knows the business, she knows the interview part, she knows how to get over.
Yeah.
And so, if you got a new tag team like that, who I think Colonel Parker had in the first, right?
Yeah.
Because I know, because I'm the one that set that up. I came with Colonel Parker and I brought Harlem Heat in. I gave them their name.
Nice. Well, we thank you for it, because that's fucking. I remember Colonel.
Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, I brought them in. I went down to Kerry Donnery Memorial and worked for free. Drove myself to Dallas just to hire them, and also I was going to hire the Sean Waltman, but he had just been hired by the WWF at the time. But I brought them in. I gave them their name. They stayed with me for like 3 months in my condo, and wrote their interviews in the beginning for them and Colonel Parker. But again, go back to Sherry. That was a good position for them to be in. You get to know someone like her that knew the thing, was going to be honest to them, give them the right direction.
Yeah.
So that had to be a good deal for them as well.
Oh yeah, it had a good feel, a good look to it, man. I thought they had good chemistry.
Yeah, it was much better. It was much better than Colonel Parker now.
Yeah.
I just did that to help Robert get a job. Giving him that job. I never thought that character was going to set the world on fire, but I thought it was a good manager character.
Yes,
if you could align yourself with Elvis Presley, and that's what the whole thing was, to use that, because Colonel Parker was Elvis's manager. That, hey, you got the best manager in the world right there. You know what I mean? So it wasn't something like the Shockmaster. I wasn't thinking the idea and just thinking the idea outside of the future with it. And it was retro, if it was something to do with Elvis, right?
Yeah, I dug it. I was watching a lot of WCW Saturday Night. I think it was right before he was getting ready to debut you for something, where he was like, I got this big surprise.
Well, this is the deal, guys. I knew I was coming back, and I used him just for that. What happened was I wasn't able to be there for those tapings, and he was there by himself because I wasn't out of my contract yet.
Yeah.
And so I could come back there. So he did those interviews, and they weren't great because I wasn't there to lead those things. And so it was a little confusing because what they allowed him to do, what I was telling him to do, when you're not there, you can't see it through. Mm-hmm. And what I used it for is it sort of announced that, the Elvis of wrestling is coming back,
Yeah.
And it didn't. And now I never meant for him to be my manager. I meant for him to be the Harlem Heat's manager. Yeah. And and that was the deal. As soon as I came in that night, and I didn't go to, hey, I'm Sid Vicious, and I want you, my manager, to get out of here. I let him say what his interview was when he finally started managing Harlem's Heat. His interview was this. He said, well, it's too easy to say that you're the best manager of all time if you're with Sid Vicious, because Sid Vicious is the best of all time. Mm-hmm. He says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take me two guys that had never been in the business, and actually their first TV tapings, they came in as two guys who had been out of jail. And both had been on Martel Road. They were excused from prison from the governor of Louisiana, who was a big gambler at the time, Colonel Parker, a big debt. So he took these two guys out of prison, and they were strapping people after their matches. Now, the things I learned about the business was give it a year, and then go in. Don't give it 2 or 3 months. It won't work like that. I learned that from my first character, Lord Humongous. They gave that thing a year, and that stupid character got over. And I couldn't work, guys. I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. I was just having 3-minute matches with people that did know what they're doing, like Danny Davis. Again, I saw also if this guy doesn't know what he's doing, help him, And no one got more help than I did. From Robert Fuller was my booker then. He didn't help me get over, but he put me with the right people, like Danny Davis, was one of the best workers of all time.
Oh yeah,
and he got me over with these simple matches. And then I started running with Eddie Gilbert, and then the shit was on after that.
Hell yeah, hot stuff, Eddie Gilbert, R.I.P. man.
No, I'm gonna tell you, people don't realize how smart that guy was.
When we were talking the other day, Sid, me, you, and Steve, and we were kind of discussing like AEW and like, hey, well, why are like guys like Cody and Jericho? So, I mean, not that they weren't over before, but because obviously Chris Jericho was, but why are they so huge now? And it's like, well, because they're away from the machine. They're not sitting there with
they're being allowed to spread their wings too. And I think one of the biggest things we need to be able to do is we have to be allowed to make a mistake.
Yeah.
It's been several years ago, I was watching WWE one night, and I saw where I'm 100% sure of this, that they actually put a spot in the match to where it looks like they actually messed up. Because, used to, if you messed up in the match, the crowds would go, you fucked up, you fucked up. I mean, we don't get that anymore. You know what I mean? And when I saw that, the people didn't do it because they knew, too, that they didn't fuck up. That was purposely done, So you need that's why, like, when you watch UFC, you don't let the fans go what direction they're going in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's real, guys. And if that's what wrestling has to. In wrestling, I think it was most popular is when people still believed in it a little bit.
Right.
You couldn't talk to people into that it was a work. You know what I mean? Well, the product looks like a work and is a work now.
Yep, everybody's in on it now.
Right. I just don't know. If you aren't allowed to do that, you're never going to know the difference in the talent. If you line them up the same and tell them all to finish in the same spot, you're not going to know who's leading the pack.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
You line everybody up here and go, I want you to all run to this point right here and stop running. Mm-hmm. Well, then who's the best?
I think a lot of things. There's especially on the indie circuit. I mean, everybody's in on it now, but I think a lot of the actual sport of professional wrestling is really starting to make a comeback. Because I've said this. When WCW folded and ECW was gone, I was like, man. Like, it's fucking be a shit show now because WWE's in control of everything. And it was for years and years and years. Right. And, because it's, the characters there just too, like, comic-y. And it was like losing. It was, he recoined it sports entertainment, We know it's entertainment. We don't fucking need you to tell us that's what it is. It's professional wrestling. It is what it is. Don't be ashamed of it. And I think a lot of that, like with AEW is getting to that now, where in a lot of these indie promotions where it is about the sport, because you have guys now that are so athletic, and especially in this day and age, Sid, where you're pointing out UFC and MMA, look at guys like Tom Lawler that are coming in, Frank Mir's starting to come in. There's an abundance of mixed martial artist Matt Riddle, who's currently in NXT, that can make you believe again, suspend your disbelief, and that's what professional wrestling is, like, I mean, there was some goofy shit.
Now, where do they use your Frank Mir at?
Frank Mir is, right now, he's doing, like, indie stuff. He's paired up with Austin Aries. I'll actually see him coming up on the 1st at Warrior Wrestling. He's going to be doing some stuff there. I'm not sure if he's involved in a match yet. I know he's did some stuff. Was it Josh Barnett's Bloodsport? I could be wrong, but you'd have to Google it. But he's just now starting to get into the mix, And
they can protect him like they did with me in the beginning, just make the matches short and believable.
Well, look at the guy, Shamrock, Sid. And Shamrock was, I mean, he was wrestling before he was a mixed martial artist, essentially,
Right, he was actually more successful as a wrestler.
Yeah,
I think is more than the UFC fighter.
Right.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's time to, like I said, I saw Cody Rhodes years ago when he was doing that character. Was it Goldust or
Stardust? Yeah.
And I thought, man, I was really impressed with that. I said, you should take something this poorly and make it look this good.
Yeah.
I said, because he's that good. You know what I mean?
Dusty's kids, man.
But then I never saw him really that much as Cody Rhodes, so I couldn't judge the two. Now, this thing is that Stardust thing. I said, man, again, if you could take something this stupid, make it look this damn cool, you got to be damn good at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's definitely bringing back that. We're talking retro tonight. He's got that retro vibe, but it's mixed in with modern day, and it's man. It's like a revolution, It's like grunge kicking hair metal's ass in the early '90s. That's why I feel like how ECW did, and I want to get on that too, because I really enjoyed when you came in ECW. I was like, holy shit, Sid made the rounds, dude. What was it, Judge Joe? Who was it? What was his name?
Yeah.
He'd come out and people would have to pay the price, and the price was fucking Sid coming out and just destroying motherfuckers with a power bomb and stuff, man. And it was so badass, dude. I remember those pops. Do you remember like the crowds and stuff? What was like your experience at ECW?
Well, what few matches I had were a lot of fun, and that type of crowd was definitely good for those kind of matches that I had with those guys. And
it looked like, you could tell, I was watching some of that recently too, and that you were having fun. You were coming out there, you were being yourself, you were destroying, and it was cool. That shit was, people loved seeing it. I remember back when it happened too, when it actually took place, like me and my buddies were all like, holy shit, like Sid's in ECW now, like it's on, like how did that end up happening? Who brought you into there?
Believe it or not, I was looking at the gym, and this is all the time at Gold's Gym with a guy named Tommy Rogers, and we started becoming workout partners, and he was working ECW, and then he asked me one time, he goes, man, Paul wanted to know if he could call you, and I said, yeah, tell him to give me a call, and then I think that's how it worked out, and I came in and did a few shots for him. And Paulie, what he was doing there, but again, times taught me into staying there with guaranteed money. They didn't have enough money to give me like that. Other than that, it was fun. Funny story is that he wrote me a bad check. He wrote Tony Rogers a bad check, and it so happens we worked at an independent shop up in New York the same weekend. They were running the Harlan show, or whatever it was, Harlan, New York. And I showed up, and Tommy showed up. It really made Paulie nurses, says, let the people see you here. Because, again, he just promoted me where I wasn't even supposed to be in these places, just where they could get people to see me, have more people show up.
Yeah.
And I think I did make a big difference on the drawing when I was there.
Oh, for sure. It was a huge deal. Like, we couldn't believe that you, a guy of your, like, presence and star power, it's like, man, in ECW, I mean, they did have that rabid cult fan base. I mean, they weren't no slouches by no means, but it was still like, when a guy like Sid Vicious shows up, it's like, it's too legit to quit,
Right, no. I had a small answer that I had a good time there. It wasn't, so it was just like an independent show but it was easy. It was exciting. And all the people were really cool. Met there, hung out with their my man Gang and met Tommy Drew, and all the people all were real nice to me. And
yeah. Let me ask you this, Sid. If you got the call for the Hall of Fame, for WWE Hall of Fame, I mean, is this something that you would take today? I mean, obviously, you don't have any ill will against the WWE or anything, do you?
It doesn't have any ill will, guys, but this is the thing. I've said it before. I've been through a lot in this business, and I've done a whole lot of positive stuff, and I think I deserved the chance to finish my career out after I made it back to my leg break. Now, I wasn't who I was, but I was willing to, again, put my nose down and do whatever it takes to finish out my career.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give myself a chance to maybe get on 1-2 more big shows where I could solidify myself in my own mind. And that would have done it, guys. If I could have come back from the injury, it might have solidified me as something special. And they drug their feet about that and never got back with me. They didn't want to talk to my lawyer. So I don't see how I'd want to entertain the thought now. The only reason it'd be worth it is because of the fans. And I wasn't I never watched wrestling. I wasn't a wrestling fan, but the fans I met, and this is the ones that know like me, and I always use Poughkeepsie, New York, or one of those Pennsylvania towns, or the people would sit up there and walk with you all the way to your card. A lot of them would be heckling,
Yeah.
And of course that was the fun part. And I remember this one girl who said, you suck. I go, yeah, I know. Yeah, you suck. I go, yeah, I know. No, bro, you're pretty good. Again, to me, that was when I got those people. They wanted someone to talk to, and I talked to them on the way to the car,
Yeah.
And let them say that I suck, and I'd go along with them, I had more fun doing, talking to fans like that, putting them sort of on the spot,
Mm-hmm.
That would be the reason I'd want to do it for the fans. But I don't feel like I've really done enough to get into the Hall of Fame.
I totally think so, man. Like I said, I hate to be a broken record, but you are one of those guys, man. You're a big fucking deal, man. Professional wrestling in the 90s for me was, if there wasn't no Sid Vicious, that would be a huge blow, Like, you're just one of those guys that is synonymous with, like, even if it's...
Well, I think, too, guys, a little bit of it is it's gone so long now. I wouldn't it's been 20 years since I wrestled.
Yeah.
Right at it. So most people weren't even alive when I was wrestling now. So I don't think it would really mean as much as it would have, if I could have done it, say, a couple of years after I retired, if I was allowed to have come back and really finished myself a little bit.
Yeah.
I could have contributed, and I know I could have contributed something. At the time, it would have been real simple. I don't know how big it would have been, how good it could have gotten. But they had John Cena, and they needed heels.
Yeah.
It would have been, I would have been a perfect matchup for that guy.
It would have been a huge pop.
And so,
Yeah.
I could have, solidified myself as maybe one of the top guys in this business.
Yeah.
Because guys, I was on top my whole career, and after that leg break, if I could have came back from that, who comes back to that many things and get on top?
Yeah.
Not many people out.
And that was tough. I remember watching that. Like, it's, I've heard you've never watched the replay of that, right?
No.
I don't blame you, because it's hard. Even still, I've seen it a few times. It's tough to watch, and I was just like, man, like, not Sid. Like, this is that was horrible. But you did work yourself back from it. You did some stuff for, like, what, Great North Wrestling up in
I did some shows, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what it was, guys, is this, and this I didn't do as many shows. Like, TNA called me all the time, and I never would do shows again.
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking I didn't want to water myself down.
Yeah, I
passed up so many opportunities because I didn't want to be watered down or take a chance and not being a big draw again. So, and again, it just wasn't. I wanted something big and fun. I didn't want something small.
Yeah, I gotcha. I still think that would have been cool, though, had you showed up in TNA, because I was watching that shit, too. That was more popping than WWE.
Well, this the other thing is, I had a feeling that was never going to work, and it didn't. And I didn't want to be a part of something. Definitely at that time in my career, they said, I remember Sid as one of the people went to TNA, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, I got you, because there was a lot of those guys.
Well, everybody, Hogan, everybody went in there. It didn't work out.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just was not going to do that to myself. Not after I went that far, not to do anything negative to myself, you know?
Yeah. Well, you had that in 2012. You came back and they had a thing going with Heath Slater, like calling out legends, and there'd be guys like Vader that would come out, who at the time still looked pretty good and was mobile. And then out comes Sid. You come out and do your thing, and beat the shit out of Heath Slater. So what? That was 2012, I think was. So that's your last appearance, really, with WWE, huh?
Man, I think I got a really good response that night. And that made me feel anyway that I know if I would have had the chance before that, at that point it was too late, But if I had a chance a year after I broke my leg, I think I could have done something again.
Yeah, for sure, man. You're definitely a guy who deserves a Hall of Fame nod whenever that call comes. Fucking pick it up and take it, because imagine the pop you're going to get when you're standing there. And I know a lot of people are like, whatever about the WWE Hall of Fame, and I wish there was a more legit, just all around professional wrestling Hall of Fame, like a physical place you could go to.
Guys, think about that. That might not be that far out of really happening one day.
Yeah.
Because I'm not wishing it bad ill to anyone, but I mean, there's a lot of things, guys, in the world changed, not just wrestling. And I think it's easy to say that wrestling is probably now it's got a chance for it to really turn around again.
Yeah.
I don't think this time Vince and them are going to be the ones that come up standing the tallest.
Right.
I think this is the first time that this really could change things. Because if they're not doing that good now, as long as that other company doesn't make any mistakes, just leave it at that. Making mistakes and open them the door and just do what they're doing. Don't compare themselves with them. I think they could come out looking pretty good into this deal.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. Totally agree.
No, I think I never felt like this about wrestling before. I really think we're fixing to see something different here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think we and I talked to someone. I think we said that again, this is just being an opportunist. I think that's exactly what I am. I haven't done anything that got Eric Bischoff there, not as a creator or as a story writer, but just as a talent, to have that leverage. You can't say, well, we didn't want him here because we don't want to be booked like WCW. You can't have that point of view.
Yeah.
You have to have a really wide vision right now, guys, because WWE will widen their vision too, okay? They're doing it right now. So you got to keep your vision wide too, and don't rope your hands tied so close together you can't move them.
Right.
And that's what they're doing right now. That's why they're successful.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't make any mistakes you don't need to mistake right now. If you can do one silly thing like tie someone in to where, they don't get that little bit of leverage. Now, I don't think, Eric, it's going to matter, because this is what happens. If you hear about what they're talking about with that, they go, we'll bring Eric in, we'll refurbish him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's already been refurbished, all right? So every time someone's getting refurbished, they're never as good as they were the first time for the most part.
Yeah.
And Eric was just a promoter. He wasn't a talent like Vince. Vince is a talent because he owns the company.
Right.
But again, and they can't do that anymore either. You can't make you can't bring the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars down there and go,
yeah,
okay, Chris Jericho, you're fired tonight. You know what I mean?
That whole heel promoter shtick, I think, is really it's just played out.
No, it is, guys. And this is the thing is, when you do something like that, and they need to look at it like this too, that they're just taking their first step into the business.
Yeah.
And they've got 1,000 steps to take, and don't go from 1 step to 100 steps, because when you get to 1,000, you're going to be done. Okay.
Yeah. So
take 1 step and 1 step at a time. And that way you don't make any mistakes. You don't burn yourself out, because you don't want to use everything up to get there. If you can win right now, whatever they're doing, don't add anything else to that till you need to.
Yeah.
But you got to stay in front of everybody on the learning curves. I don't know. I think this is the first time that, Vince looks like he got a chance to really lose it, just because when I was there and the WCW was beating us in ratings, we were still outdrawing them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is numbers not being almost 100-1 sometimes in house shows. And I told Vince this on a couple times we talked. I said, why are you so worried about this thing called ratings? And I said, we're beating him in the house shows.
Yeah.
And of course, ratings is what keeps his show on TV.
Right.
And then it was the pride thing. But again, that pride thing allowed, you weren't going to beat him like him. So let them run to 1,000 steps before you do. When that thing petered out, it petered out for him too. And they haven't been able to stop falling from that free fall from that cliff.
Yeah. And now it's they got all the talent in the world, and it's just, they have one promotion within there, and it's called NXT. And it's Triple H that's spearheading that, and that's the most popular thing among like diehard wrestling fans, even more than the Raw or SmackDown.
Well, again, I don't know. I've seen just the commercials they've been showing lately, and it doesn't look like I don't see anybody on there that stands out. Now this thing is you can have WWE, Monday Night Raw, you have SmackDown, you have NXT. That's still all the same company, and that company's losing right now.
Yeah.
So it's not going to make, you know what I mean? So you can have 19 shows, but if you're losing, you're losing. So that's why the other company needs to really take their time and not get ahead of themselves to get where they're losing before they want to lose.
Yeah. I agree. Sid, so you got a lot of stuff that you like to talk about. Unfortunately, we don't have all the time in the world, but everybody will get to hear your voice and your opinions and your stories on the Vicious Circle podcast, which is a podcast you're starting.
Right.
Now, is this going to be once a week, once a month? Like, do you guys have a plan?
This is the thing is, guys, don't take whatever you hear for sure. We don't know if it's going to be once a week or once a month. Right now, we've done 4 recordings, me and Rob Bellamy, and he's coming back to his Labor Day weekend to do some more. Make some changes now. You don't want to wait too long into it before you make changes. We're just trying to critique a couple things. So, I'm not sure if it's going to be once a week or once a month, but we're going to work all that out. Steve, the guy you've talked to, the one that lined up this conversation, he knows more about podcasting than I do, but it doesn't mean he knows anything else more than us. And so we're the ones sort of making decisions on this because really we're doing it first to just get someone else's opinion out there.
Yeah.
And so far, all these podcasts I've done, my opinion has been a little bit different and a different view for people to look at as well. And really, we're doing it also just, I'm thinking of writing my book. So what a better way to promote something, know? And if I do get that call Hall of Fame, then I'll have my own podcast,
Hell yeah. So everybody out there listening could check that out when it drops September 1st. The Vicious Circle podcast, probably I would assume be on all podcasting platforms. Sid, I know you're not on the technical side of that stuff, but
no, I'm not. I'm learning those guys, and Rob, the guy from Canada, I'm taking to it pretty quick. And again, this is something I'm just trying. Other people are doing it. I've not lost anything or failed anything I've done before, so I'll do like everything else. I'll take one step at a time, and I won't get to 1,000 before I need to get there. And we'll just see how it goes.
That's right, and we're looking forward to that. Well, Sid, I'd like to thank you for coming on, man. I had a blast talking to you, dude. It was an honor and a privilege, and I hope we could do it again sometime. I can't wait for everybody to check your show out. I think it's going to be...
Well, guys, I appreciate you having me on. I'm a little burned out from these things. I probably wasn't as good as I needed to be tonight. I'd like to maybe come back on your show sometime or something. But, no, I appreciate you guys having me on, and we're just going to do this one step at a time, have some fun with it. I want the people to tune into it if they want to. It'd be great.
Well, we're going to end this one here. Everybody make sure you go on the Facebook and check out the Vicious Circle podcast. Follow it. Look forward to the content. And Sid, we're going to have you back again and cut it up, man.
Yeah, maybe this next time you guys maybe grow some personality before I come back on.
We'll grow a set, yeah. We'll get a little wild and crazy, yeah.
There you go. All right, guys.
All right, brother.
I'm sorry I'm so tired tonight. You guys really pulled me through this. And, I'll lie real quick. This is the only time I'll lie on a podcast. You guys really taught me something tonight. Shit, I came out of this thing like the smartest guy in the world.
Hell yeah. You got like a doctorate.
Well, you know this. You got to say what living on the square is. This is the thing is, I told the guys that didn't know this. Mm-hmm. Just educate yourselves a little bit for the business you're in. You know what I mean? And you guys, and you do have a good show.
Oh, we're gonna get you. We're gonna school you next time. Sreten's ready.
Okay, kid. All right, y'all have a good night, man.
You too.
Thank you again.
Keep it real.
Have a good weekend, too.
You too.
And
You too.
God bless you guys.
You
God
too,
bless.
man. Thanks, man.
You gonna do sex to me?
Did you like that video? If so, be sure to hit like and subscribe and check out more killer content from your boys at Juice Pro Wrestling. Whoa, yeah!